So let's start at the beginning. I'm curious, what drew you into acting? Were you inspired by somebody? Was it a family thing? Were you just always a performer?
I think yeah, I got into it very early in my life. I got the bug around third grade. I did a play at a camp, and as soon as I used to clown around a lot, so they gave me the part where I was able to joke around a lot, and I came out and everybody laughed and like and clapped, and I've been chasing that kind of dragon ever since. It's been so I got the bug then. It was and then from third grade on, I was like, okay, I want to act. So then any I was on Long Island, and there's not a lot of venues to, my school was a sports school, but they did have plays and stuff. So I started doing plays, and anywhere I can do a play, there was like a theater a couple of towns away that I would take classes at. And you know from from that time on, I started doing plays, and I enjoyed it, and I've been trying to find that laugh again.
That's great. I understand that. I mean, it seems like there's people who are born with that. Like, wait a second, you get bit by the bug, and it's a lifetime.
Yeah, and I was very lucky in that anytime I had a doubt, or I questioned if I should be doing it, there was always some adult who was like, "No, this is something you can do, or you're good at this, or don't give up," and they kept pushing me forward. And I had that. I got very lucky in that anytime that I did have doubt, there was always somebody to encourage me to keep doing it.
Were your parents some of those encouraging
My
people?
parents were great. You hear these horror stories of like parents who are like, "No, you can't. That's not a profession, or you got to do, you got to, you know, take over your father's business or whatever." My father was a cesspool cleaner, and delivered porta potties and clean cesspools. But they never did that. Although I did work with him. No, my parents were very, very supportive. My mother would try to take us into Manhattan on Wednesday afternoons when TKTS had like half price tickets to see
Yes.
plays. And so that was my intro. I lived on Long Island, so that was, we take the Long Island Railroad in, and that was my introduction to Broadway shows or off Broadway shows. And um, yeah, they were very, very supportive, which was really nice because they didn't have to be, and they
Yeah,
were.
that's great. I'm on the other side. I'm in Jersey City, so we've only done a few plays with the kids, but it's definitely on the agenda. I just love how those. I think going to see that stuff opens your eyes, and if you're a creative kid, I think it makes you realize, wait a second, there's much more I can be doing, and helps you aim much higher.
Oh, for sure. I mean, being on Long Island, I didn't know what was out there, and then my mother would take me into Manhattan. I'm like, oh, this is also part of the world, and then to go see those plays and go, oh, there's other people who like to get up on stage and make people laugh or entertain people. I like that. I want to do that too. And so then I wound up going to NYU, and living in Manhattan for 12 years, and that's where I got my training, and I got my education, and I got to meet everybody in the sketch comedy group that I was a part of in the 90s called The State. We met at NYU, and then we were lucky enough to get our own show, and we wrote our own sketches, and we performed them, and we edited them, and we did the whole thing. And it was like, I mean, it's crazy how all that happened and how lucky we were. But yeah, yeah, and that's
Well,
because when you get introduced to you know Manhattan and Broadway and theater, you're like, oh, this is out here for me. This is available.
when luck and talent and drive meet, you can find some really incredible things.
For
So it
sure.
sounds like that's the case.
Absolutely.
Before diving too much, going fast forwarding too much, I did want to talk about Veronica Mars just quickly. Um, I think the show deserves much more recognition and a bigger fan base than it has now. I know you've a passionate fan base, but it needs to be bigger. It's such an amazing show. Will we ever see? Will we ever see more V Mars and more Vinny?
Oh, I have no idea. I mean, I am just a tiny player in the larger world of Veronica Mars. So whatever they do, if they did more, I would love to do more. They gave me a really fun part to play, and they've always been, very supportive in terms of like bringing me back and giving me more fun stuff. So if I know there's a rabid fan base. I don't know how small or big it is. It feels big anytime something comes out. There's like, that fan base is always talking about it. So if they do another thing, be it another season of the series they did, or a movie, or whatever, or I mean, a YouTube video, I will happily be part of it if they want me to be part of it. And the truth is that that group of people, meeting them, opened up the door for me to get to do Party Down, and that was the biggest gift I've ever gotten.
That I was going to mention that you along with a co-star, a couple co-stars actually, transitioned right into Party Down a few years later, and that's actually probably what drew me to Party Down, was seeing the familiar faces, and I'm like, oh, I'm on board. There's the V Mars crew.
Exactly. I mean, those guys are they're really smart writers, and they're funny, and their take on stuff is fresh and different and original. And so, I just remember I was on set playing Vinny one day, and Dan Etheridge was talking about this project that they were trying to get off the ground, and he was telling me it was called Party Down. I was like, oh, can I read it? And so I read it during like lunch or whatever. And I, as soon as I read it, I was like, my God, this is awesome. And Ron is a fantastic character. And so I went back to Dan, I handed him the script back after lunch, and I was like, so listen, if you ever audition for this, please can I audition for Ron? Because I think I have a take on him, and it's just such a great script. And then Veronica Mars got canceled, and Rob Thomas was like, well, I'm gonna ask the crew to come into my backyard, or something like this. Something like this happened, where we basically shot Party Down in Rob's backyard and in his house, just so they can kind of have it and then shop it around. And so we shot a whole a whole series. I mean, a whole pilot, the whole pilot episode in, I don't know, 4 days at Rob's house. And that's when Adam, they asked Adam to do it, they asked me to do it, Jane, Ryan, a couple other people.
Incredible. Does that tape exist anymore? Is it out there somewhere for us to
I have not seen it. I'm sure they have it. I'm sure they have the show, and then what they did, I think what they wound up doing is, it was a very dense script. And so what they did is they cut together sort of a sizzle reel of the piece. So I don't know if I've ever seen the entire show. I've just seen the sizzle reel of it, I think. In that episode, in that incarnation of it, I had brought in, I want Ron to have a kind of a military cut, a militant cut, like a recovering kind of alcoholic. I'm going to clean up my act. This is how I'm going to show it. But he also had a mustache. And then when it got picked up, they were like, keep the haircut, lose the stash.
What was it about the character that made you want to play Ron?
I guess I tapped into kind of his wants, and like his point of view, and his desire to please, and his desire to keep things in line and make things right. And I don't know, there was something, I had a take on it that I thought could be interesting. It's interesting, you sometimes you read parts and you're like, I don't know the in on this. I don't know how to get into this guy and make him fully realized. But when I read Ron, I was like, oh, I have I have a really good take on him that I think would be entertaining. And, I was lucky enough to, after begging for them to let me audition for it, I was lucky enough to have them put me in the pilot in Rob's backyard, and we all got paid $100 a day.
Nice. I'll take it. If there's any other, spots in the cast, that sounds like a reasonable rate. I'm sure.
Yes, of course. We'll let you know. So, and forgive me, is this just we're recording this, and the video is as important as the audio, or is the audio the important part?
I'd like to use video and the audio.
Okay, great. Okay. Oh, then
I think it captures
like a little bit more. I would have shaved.
I think it really helps. The conversation is great, and if you read on paper, it's one thing. If you listen to it, it's another. But if you get all the senses working,
yes.
I think it really captures the spirit of the conversation.
How are we going to do the smell part of it?
We send out stickers. There's a QR code. You get a scratch and sniff.
Oh, perfect.
It flashes on screen. Banana.
Smell now.
Oh,
smell now. And what are we doing? Coffee, I assume.
Yeah, right now. Yeah. Is that a coffee?
Just sort of two guys, like kind of like a musty, like two guys you like threw on some clothes that maybe haven't been washed, and then the third
exactly.
one would be just the smell of Doctor Who.
There you go. Doctor Who, Axe body spray, a little BO, and a coffee, and then you're right there. It's an interview for the senses. So beyond what you see on screen, you did touch upon this just a little bit, but beyond what we see on screen, did you have any backstory in mind for Ron?
Ron's backstory is, he sort of talks about it. I mean, Ron's gone through, a lot in his life. He's a big partier and a pill popper and drinker, and really kind of a bit of a fuck up. But then he, tries to clean up his act, and that's a never-ending struggle. He's constantly on the wagon, off the wagon, on the wagon, off the wagon. But he's a guy who, in my head, reads a lot of self-help books, goes to a lot of self-help conventions, anything to kind of keep his eye on the prize, which is success and corporate success, and trying to figure out how to get people to respect him.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Is you could see that need for acknowledgement. It's like a dog. That's why I can compare him to sometimes. Coming back.
He also, I find him to be somebody who is a loyal friend, and he found, whether Henry wants it or not, he found a loyal friend in Ron. Like, Ron just really cares for Henry and wants the best for him. He just doesn't necessarily always have the right tools to convey his, his friendship.
And when season 2, I'm sorry, ended, the show disappears. It's gone for a decade. Did you ever expect to see it back? Was it something that you had been talking about, or did it pop up by surprise? How did that work out?
We were talking about doing something after it ended, because nobody wanted it to end. We all loved doing it. We understood why it ended. Not a lot of people were watching it at the time, but so we kept talking about, like, how can we do it again? Is there a movie? For a while there was talk of, like, maybe we, N-Bomb can write a movie, and we'll do that. And so that was floating around for a while. So we were all optimistic. And for a long time I was talking about, yeah, it's going to happen. It feels like it's going to happen. And years would go by and years would go by. And then finally I gave up hope. And it turned out that as soon as you give up hope, things happen. And so I think that's a life lesson. Just become hopeless, and then your dreams will come true.
I'm gonna teach that one to my kids.
I have a tattoo on my back that says that.
Be hopeless and dreams happen.
That's right.
So what was it like slipping on the pink bow tie again? And were there any concerns about being able to recapture the magic?
I mean, I was not concerned about it. It was so exciting. Once we got the email that said Stars wants to do some more, to do 6 episodes, I, we, I, I'll go back and check the email, but I feel like we all responded within the hour of getting that email. Like we were all very excited to do it, and we were all in. I've been very lucky in a number of projects that I've worked on where I've met these incredible actors, but outside of them being incredible actors, they're just these beautiful people. And I've made a lot of friends over the years because of the shows I've worked on, like lifelong friends. So, when we got the word to put on the tie again, I think we were all super excited about it. And I don't know, for me, I mean, I didn't believe it was really going to happen until we showed up the first day and we were all dressed and I had the pink bow tie on. And for me, it was like slipping into, a nice old comfortable pair of, slippers. I mean, Ron, has never fully left me. And so I was very excited to, get back into the headspace of Ron. For sure.
That's great. Because as a fan, I definitely, I'm always a little bit nervous, especially when they do all these reboots and remakes and every other read you can imagine. And somewhere between the previous entry and the current one, they forget what made it special. And this felt like you never ended.
It did. Really... It felt like, to me, and I think this was intentional, it felt like just the 3rd season of Party Down. It just so happened that 10 years or 11 years passed. You know what I mean? Like I think the way they approached it was, and it was really a smart way to approach it, is, we're doing it exactly the same. We're not trying to change what worked about it. So it's going to be run and gun. It's going to be shot a certain way. I think it's shot a little prettier than the first 2 seasons, but it's still like handheld, and it's all going to be filtered basically through John Embaum, who's this incredible, genius writer, who it's all filtered through him, and that's basically what the first 2 seasons were, essentially. A couple other people, Rob wrote a couple of episodes, but like I feel like everything was like then filtered through Embaum's brain, his insane brain. And so that same, magic and cadence and the way people talk to each other, and he knows those characters so well. So it was more of the same magic that was in the first 2 seasons, in my opinion. Not to toot our own horn, but I think that show there's something magical about it. It's a beautiful chemistry experiment that works so well.
I completely agree. That's what you get when you give up hope. Magic.
As soon as you become hopeless, I'll show you my tattoo on my back. Give up hope, dreams come true.
It's a nice long one.
Goes down to my ass crack. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, what was that?
Oh, I said it goes down to my ass crack. It's not worth repeating. Go ahead. What was your question?
I was just going to say your physical comedy is out of this world. You bring your whole body into the performance. And is that something that like kind of came natural to you, something you did as a kid and it progressed, or did you actually do any kind of training? Like where does that, because not everybody can do that. And it's, when you do it, it elevates your comedy tenfold.
That's very nice of you to say. Thank you. I've always found physicalizing something or adding some physical comedy to any comedic scene, if there's an opportunity to do that, to be very valuable. And I think as a kid, I mean, I grew up, watching, Buster Keaton and Jerry Lewis and, different, different Dick Van Dyke and people who were very physical that they were on the TV. And so I enjoyed physical comedy, the Marx Brothers, just watching that stuff. I always felt that I responded to it, and I always wanted to do my version of it. And so anytime I'm in life, when I was around my friends, I would just do things over and over, physical things over and over again. And then in the back of my head, I'm like, I'll put that in something if I ever get a chance, I'll put that into something. I mean, I shot a thing called Burning Love many years ago, and I always did a
Yes.
camping bit. And so I was like, this guy is just gonna always, for some reason, trip and look back like something was in the way when nothing was in the way. And I would put that in there. Ron is such a mess of a person that physically, I think showing that with his body is important. And there's, when he's dealing with food poisoning, or when he's just miserable about something, or when he's excited about something, he's going to bump into something. He's going to, show his frustration by banging his head on something. He's going to walk into a wall. I mean, all of those things are there on the script, or they're in the script. And so, Enbaum gave me these gifts, and so I want to do them justice as much as possible. I mean, there was a scene in Party Down where, Zoe Chow and I were fighting over these trays, and then I was like, I tried to keep a tray away from her, and I was supposed to just walk out victorious with the tray not being knocked over. And so I was like, well, can I do one more take? And so I started to walk out victorious, but then I fucked myself up by just like not being aware of the door frame, and the tray gets knocked out. And I was very happy that they gave me the opportunity to do another take. And I think they were happy that I gave them, an option of having that comic button. And so it's all about like the writers giving you really fun stuff to do, and then just kind of finding and exploring what the fun physical layer of the scene is, if it serves the story.
That's great. I have this one gag I play with my daughters. Well, they now roll their eyes, but I'll be walking with them and their friends or whoever, and a street sign, I walk into it, I smash it with my hand. They think I walked in. All their friends are gasping. My daughter's like, ugh. But it's my version.
I do a very similar bit. That's a classic. Walking into a sign, walking into a door frame. Yeah, that's a good one.
So that's where these things kind of build off of.
Exactly.
And you come back 13 years later, and so much has changed in the world. But with Ron, he's kind of changed, but how much has he? Is he still the same guy, do you see, or do
I think Ron's goal I think Ron's goal has been pretty singular, and he wants success. He wants to be seen as a success, and he wants, to climb that, corporate ladder and have people, respect him and have some sort of successful business. I don't think that changed over the 10 or 11 years that he was, that we didn't see him. I just think that much like Ron's, essence, or much like Ron's, just the stories that we see of Ron, he takes one step forward, he has one, and then he takes 17 steps backwards. He's got this enormous black cloud over his head. He's his own worst enemy. And so anytime there's a little victory, there's like, 25, failures, that. And so I think basically the 10 years that we didn't see him, he was sort of making a little progress, but also just terrible things were happening to him for a decade that we didn't get to see.
his big mistake is he doesn't give up hope? It's like
he doesn't give up hope. He is forever believing that what is it? Don't stop believing. The journey is it journey? Don't stop believing.
the journey, yeah.
Yeah, I think he said that. I think that is a phrase that he uses in the second season. That was 13 years ago.
I believe you're right. Where do you see Ron in 10 years?
I think he's still living, and this is just in my head, in his mother and father's renovated garage, but promising them that he's going to move out soon. And I think that he will probably have fucked up Party Down, the ownership of it, and handed it back off to Constance, who probably messed it up somehow and sold it back to Ken Jeong's character or something. And so I'm probably in 10 years from now, Ron is back just slinging derves with the crew. And everybody's like, why is this old man here? And he has a lot of war stories to tell them about how long he's been there. He's going to be the longest. He's going to be the longest. He's going to have worked at Party Down longer than anybody in Party Down history.
You eventually get that gold watch for that, I think.
Yeah.
Go get him.
They'll give it to him, and he'll immediately, break it.
Well, overall, do you see this series as a downer, or do you see like a more hopeful side to it?
I think this series is a pretty dark comedy, but there's always like a glimmer of hope, and I like when we get when the characters get these small wins. But the truth is the show kind of comments on the fact that life is complicated and hard, and we don't always get the things that we want, even though we think we deserve them or want them. So I mean, it's my favorite type of comedy where it's not just a feel-good show, but it's also just not a downer. Like it sprinkles in both. Just when you're like feeling like this couldn't be more, sad. A little, you get a little glimmer, you get a little crumb or a seed of like some sort of hope.
You know what? It reminds me of what you just said. Have you ever seen the documentary American Movie?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's right there. People said this is the most depressing. I'm like, this is not depressing. This is hopeful. This is in the middle of like everything that can go wrong, finding that glimmer of possibility.
Exactly. There are a lot of similarities. Yes, for sure. Yeah. Look, life is complicated. Life is hard. Life is hard. And there are a lot of obstacles that we hit, and the successes that we think we're going to achieve, sometimes we don't achieve them. But when we keep pushing forward, or when we keep living our lives, there are little victories, and if we can recognize them, I think that's the goal. And I think that Party Down, I think that John's writing and just the essence of what Party Down is, I think it has a little bit of that in it.
I like that. That's great. Will we see more of the Party Down gang? I don't know if there's anything official yet, but what do you think?
I mean, from your lips to whoever's ears, to Star's ears, I think I know that everybody involved would want to do more. It's just really a question of whether they want to do more. I mean, I like.
Well, I hope so.
We have a great time doing it, and like working with Adam is one of my favorite things of my career. I just adore him as a human being, and I think he's one of my favorite actors. I love to be in scenes with him and just watch him do his thing. It's super impressive. I don't know how he does certain things. And then Martin and Ryan and Jane and Megan, and then meeting Tyrell and Zoe and Jen. And then, if we do 4, I know that, Lizzie will be back. So, I mean, these are all incredible people that I've been given the gift to have worked with.
Well, my fingers are crossed, and I'm really hoping this does happen.
Me too.
One big question. Did you have to make a deal with the devil to stop aging? And if so, what was that deal?
It's a simple deal. Basically, at the end of my life, I have to then work for Lucifer himself, and I have to sort of recruit people to, do terrible, terrible things. But it was an easy deal to make. I mean, I'm in Hollywood. I have to continue to look the same way for another 20, 25 years. And then at that point, yeah, might I have some regrets at that point? Sure, but I'm not going to think about it until I'm 65, 70 years old, or 25, until I'm older than that. Yeah, until I'm about 75.
Well, Satan's doing a great job. You look great. I was amazed. Like, I'm
Well,
like,
don't thank. I mean, thank you very much. But for me, I thank the devil himself.
how often does that happen during an interview that we're thanking the devil? But well done.
Not very often. You know, we like to keep it on the down low or the DD low,
Uh,
the devil down low, the DD. But you know, I mean, I feel like we're friends, and this is, you know, nobody. You're not going to put this out for anybody to see, are you?
no, no,
This is our little secret.
just the world. This is it. Just
Great.
hanging out, drinking coffee,
Yeah,
being musty together.
that's it. I can smell it. I can smell it now.
So you work on another amazing series, The Other Two,
Yes.
and it's another underappreciated gem, in my opinion. It's still gaining its audience. It's 3 seasons in, but this season I think is probably its best yet. With like all the very risk taking, some very surreal moments, and just giving it an opportunity to really spread its wings.
I agree with you on all your points. I think it is a show that more people should be watching. It is the funniest show I've seen it in, you know, a long time. To be part of it is, I feel so lucky. This season is ridiculous and so ambitious and so impressive. I watched this last episode, the Pleasantville sort of one, the episode 4, and I it's like the 3rd time I've watched it, and I can't believe how funny it is and how original and fresh the kind of approach to the comedy is. Things that I haven't seen before. And then the thing I love most about it is it does absurd, ridiculous jokes. There's so many jokes per minute. But somehow it's able to do that, but then tap into real relationships and have you feel like these characters are real people, and it's such a incredible balancing act. Sarah and Chris are, I mean, they're incredible. They're incredible writers and directors, and the fact that, you know, we get to, and then, you know, when you have somebody like Drew and Helena leading the charge, and then you have, you know, Molly and Josh Segarra and Wanda Sykes and Brandon and like, and Case, like, and then I get to kind of tag along. It's really kind of incredible.
And how does working with a talented ensemble like that affect your work? Does it, you know, it must really elevate and give you the opportunity to go big and like test things out, I guess.
Always, you know, I mean, when you're working with people who are incredibly talented, like on The Other Two, and for sure, like on Party Down, you want to, you know, step up your game. You want to impress them. You don't want to kind of coast through something. You want to be like, okay, I'm going to show you what I got, and, you know, elevate this scene hopefully, and elevate the show hopefully, and you know, and just kind of represent. And that's what I try to do. And then when, you know, I'll take some big swings, and Sarah and Chris will come out and they'll be like, all right, now let's do something else. And then they'll kind of guide me back into what the tone of the show is, and to tell me to stop trying to impress everybody in my scene, and just serve the text.
Hey, you know what? It's good. It's good though to have that relationship where they can actually tell you that, and you don't have to storm off.
That's right. That's right.
So you've played so many great characters: Streeter Peters, Vinnie Van Lowe, Ron Donald, Victor Pulak. And do you have a favorite? Is there one you relate to, or?
You know, I mean, I love Streeter and Ron. I think that those are fun guys to play. But I've been really fortunate in having to, you know, gotten to play a lot of fun. The one good thing about doing shows that don't last very long, or, you know, there's a lot of time between them, is I get to do other stuff. And so I've gotten to play, I mean, one of my favorite parts that I've played, and and part of it is because I got to work with and create it and do it with my wife, Erica Oyama. I got to do, in Burning Love, I get to do Mark Orlando as one of my favorite characters. The fact that I got invited to do a whole season of Eastbound and Down with Danny McBride and got to play Guy Young was an incredible experience and such a fun part. All the stuff on Children's Hospital, getting to play with all those guys was so good. So it's hard. It's like, my goal is to find the joy in each character I play and to fill it up as much as possible so the powers that be are happy with the part, the character, and making the choice to put me in their show. So there are a lot of parts that I have a special relationship with.
So just a kind of personal question. What are you watching currently? Like what entertains you?
Well, my favorite show maybe of all time is Better Call Saul /
Oh my God.
the Breaking Bad universe. I can't tell you how blown away I was by that show, every season, the actors on that show. That is the type of show that I hope someday I get to be a part of. I mean, it's just every detail, every aspect of that, Peter Gould, and like that show is perfect to me. And so that was the last one that I got into that deeply. I'm watching Barry now. I think Bill Hader is incredible. I'm watching Succession. I was late to the party on Search Party, so I'm going back and watching Search Party. And then my son and I just watched, my son who's turning 16 in June, I was telling him some of my favorite movies, and so now he's going back and watching some of my favorite movies. And so last night we watched One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest again. And
fantastic.
Man, that's a good movie. It's just the best. It's like heartbreaking and funny and everything, everything you want a movie to be. And so,
excuse my explosive, guttural reaction to Better Call Saul, but I was like, that's what I was thinking your answer would be, because I'm like, I don't know. We found we're kind of in tune right now with the smells and everything.
For sure.
But I was like, I could imagine you appreciating that show, and I absolutely love it. I think it's amazing how you can make a follow-up series seem so, just integral. Is that the right word?
They cared so much about doing it right. You can feel it. You can feel the thought and the care and the detail that they put into every aspect of it. There was no cutting corners. It's hard when you make a show, because a lot of times, you can feel when you watch a show, they're we just got to get from point A to point B. We'll just put that in there because we need these two characters to be with each other. Never, ever do you feel that way on Better Call Saul, or Breaking Bad. It's they're how do we get this? What's the most interesting way? What's the real, most believable way, or the most entertaining way? And then let's shoot it beautifully. Let's not hold back, and let's make this as such a beautiful, it's a movie. I can gush about that show for hours. I love it so much.
Same here. Well, I hope you get your version of that, because I think you could really pull it off, and I'd love to see it. I'd be there on day one for sure.
Well, from your lips to Doctor Who's ears.
Exactly.
Because if anybody could do it, I feel like, I don't know Doctor Who that well, but I feel like Doctor Who could help out.
I think so. The doctor does best. So do your kids watch your series with you at all? Have they seen your work?
My daughter watched some Party Down this season and loved Tyrell. but then got annoyed with me, and so she's like, I don't want to watch you, and so then she stopped watching. My son has watched all of them, really enjoyed them, and then he watched all of I got to watch a number of the episodes of the other two this season. He watched them with me, and we both get a kick out of Drew and Helena, and so we have a good time with that. Drew was my roommate for the last 2 seasons in New York when we shot in New York. So my son Riley came out, and we all got to hang out together. So Drew cracks him up. So anything with Drew, he'll just start giggling. And I forget what your question was.
I'm just wondering what you're watching, and if your kids watch with you, if they
Oh
enjoy
yeah. So that's what we're watching, and then my daughter will kick me out of the room when she wants to watch something. She has no desire to watch many things with me. She does, unless it's a horror movie, and then she'll watch it with me. She likes horror
And
movies.
let me wrap up with an easy one. 3 words to describe Ron Donald.
Sweaty, sad, and what it says on my back, hopeful.
Perfect way to end this. But thank you for this great conversation. It's been a real treat. Thank you for your work. I mean, I'm telling you, you've been entertaining me for decades, and
Thanks,
and I'm looking forward to further decades of your fine work and your big series where you get to Better Call Saul, because
perfect. And as you said, there's going to be many more decades because of that deal I made with the devil.
good guy. So he's a good guy.
He's not a terrible guy. You know what I mean? He's got a bad rap.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Be good.
Have a great day.
Nice meeting you. My pleasure.
It's nice meeting you.